My name is Jeremy Lonka. I'm Director of Programming for the Actors Gang Prison Project. I have been with the Actors Gang for 12 years now, over a decade. So, as Director of Programming, what I do is work with Hannah Chodos and Richard Loya, who are our two program managers, and we run programming at 13 different prisons, 15 different yards. We have a reentry center, we have a youth facility, and we have a teaching pool of essentially 20 teaching artists, some of whom are Actors Gang members who have been with the company since Tim started it back in the early 80s. Also in that company are alumni, and our alumni teaching artists are folks who learned the style inside prison, are now out. They train with us at the theater, and then once they have a full understanding of the style, they'll start to go back into prisons, back into reentry, back into the youth facilities, and teach the programs themselves. What we're looking for from the institution when we come in initially is partnership, and basically that's just an understanding of what it is that we're there to do. What we do is we teach theater. We're from a theater company in Culver City, but we're very clear off the top that we're not there to teach anybody to be actors. What we're really doing is we're there to bring these emotional tools that are taught through this style of commedia dell'arte, this style of acting, that enable folks to begin to open up, to understand their emotions, start to relate to one another differently, form empathy with each other. And what we found is that work, when you take it into prison, starts to break down racial barriers. It starts to get men and women to start to not only understand themselves, but start to think about the other people in their group and share lived experiences and start to see that their differences possibly aren't that great. And what that means for the prison is that it has the potential to drop 115s. It has the possibility of shifting the culture on the yard and drop the rate of violence. When I speak about partnership, what I mean is that what we try and do as an organization is when we come in, we try and have a full understanding, as much as we can as artists, of what officers are going through, what might be happening on the yard, and obviously follow all the rules and protocols that go along with that. The side that we're looking for from the institution is just an understanding that at the end of the day, we're really there in a way to help make their lives easier. We're there to bring this skill set in that hopefully will drop violence on the yard, will give these men and women or offer them the opportunity to engage in these interpersonal skills, these soft skills that we know and have been proven to help with reentry. So as they're reacclimating back to their community, they have these skills that we're there to provide. So the idea is that it works for everybody.
My name is Richard Loya. I've been part of the Actors Gang Prison Project for 5 years. 2016, the Actors Gang came in to Avenal State Prison, and it was there where I learned of the Actors Gang. Yeah. So what we are, the Actors Gang Prison Project, we're an ensemble teaching theater company. It's a highly intense style of theater. You know, we do play, there's a lot of fun involved, but there's also work, right? And that work consists of dealing with those emotions, being vulnerable, being totally out of your comfort zone. And so those are the things that made me feel alive, because for so long I was disconnected from any emotion. And so this is what we are, this is what we teach. My current role is program manager. I started as alumni, which meant, as I mentioned, being at Avenal, was formerly incarcerated. I became a teaching artist. I was a facilitator of the class inside, came home, continued doing the work as teaching artist, and just recently this year I was promoted to program manager. Program manager entails I have to manage people, and part of that is making sure that we as an alumni stay connected. We meet every Thursday, so always making sure, checking with them that they're good to go. We work in 13 prisons, so just staying in contact with them, letting them know about future dates coming, where they're going to be traveling, just keeping us connected. We're in reentry, so it's getting all the information needed for whoever's leading that team at reentry. We're at camps, working with probation. And so just making sure that all that is lined up and in order and ready to go. To communicate with the CDCR staff, I couldn't believe it at first that this is what I was going to be doing. Understanding that that's the role of being program manager. These are people that when I was inside, you only hear of them. These are staff administration, and these are the people that allow programs such as the Actors Gang to come in. And now I'm in communication with them. So that is like was surreal for me a little bit, because I'm exchanging emails with CRMs, with sponsors of the institutions and staff. And so yeah, sometimes I still can't believe that I do that.
My name is Montreal Harrell. I've been with the Actors Gang since 2012 February. I'm a teaching artist with the Prison Project. Teaching artist with the Prison Project entails going back inside the prisons, youth facilities, reentry programs, and you are teaching, helping build foundation, helping them navigate through the emotions. I feel like it's giving hope, kind of like what they did for me. So it's like giving hope and believing in them and helping them find that change that they seek. So, if I had to tell somebody about Prison Project, the Actors Gang, and they've never heard about it, and I would let them know that the Actors Gang Prison Project is a theater company in Culver City that goes back in prison, that helps guys and women reform their life, help them channel their emotions, how to have anger and deal with it in a positive way, something that is very unheard of. Because people think that anger is always negative, but it can be positive energy at the same time. And install hope in people that don't have hope. I didn't have hope at all, and that was the first thing that Actors Gang installed in me was hope, and like, you can do it. And in prisons, you don't really hear that. So this is a company that the sky's the limit. They have so many resources now that it's just whatever you need, there's a resource for it. And this is a company that I feel that should be mandatory in prisons, youth facilities, anywhere incarceration. I think programming Boys and Girls Club, because it helps them with everyday life, with emotions, things that we deal with every day. This program's the best program in the world.
My name is Major Bunton, and I've been doing the Actors Gang for approximately 5 years. I would say the Actors Gang Prison Project and the Actors Gang is a highly intense program that allows you to look at yourself, challenge yourself, take chances. It allows you to discover some places that you haven't been. I think it allows you to have a sense of understanding about the 4 basic emotions: happy, sad, fear, anger. Some of the emotions that I struggled with for a long time. I think it allows you to try new things, be crazy, be vulnerable. But also there's a sense of like freedom of life. Like, it allows you to see life in a different light. It allows you to move freely from a place that is different, but has a sense of direction. What draws me to this work, I know it works. I saw it several times. I mean, just to go into the prisons and see these guys, with these masks on, like, hey, I'm not finna step into this new arena. That is the beauty, to see like the masses of these guys and come in and say that I'm not going to engage in the program. And then by 6 or 7 days, they're fully engaged into the program. And I love to see the toughest of the toughest come in and say, nah, this ain't for me. But after 5 or 6 days, they're like, whoa, man, this is crazy. So yeah, I think that's intriguing to see.
My name is John Dish, and I've been participating in Actors Gang Prison Project since 2016 for the last 5 years. My current role with the Prison Project is that I'm an alumni advocacy coordinator with the Prison Project. So what the alumni advocacy coordinator do is that I am the point person for when the individual comes out of prison that participated in the program. I reconnect them with the organization and give them resources and support. And ultimately, if they want to become a teaching artist, then I would direct them in the right direction. The culture within the Actors Gang Prison Project, it's crazy. It's definitely a weird dynamic where it's something you want to be a part of. It's where you can be yourself and no one's going to judge you, and it's just been simply amazing. I began to learn the style, the Actors Gang style, at Avenal State Prison in 2016. The program manager at the Actors Gang now, Richard Loy, he's the one that pulled me into the program. So what ended up happening was that he approached me because I was a weird individual, and I was very wacky, and I was just different. And so he approached me and presented this opportunity to me, and I didn't hesitate. I didn't know what it was. All he told me was that Tim Robbins and some actors were coming in and that you would make the perfect candidate. So I jumped in head first without any hesitation and never looked back. So the first couple of days of the Actors Gang Prison Project, it was something unorthodox. It was something weird, and I was not used to it because they had me put on makeup, and it kind of freaked me out because I didn't want to be judged. So I was hesitant at first, but throughout the process, I realized how much it suited me. So I jumped in again and put aside all the judgment and went along with it. Yeah, so the struggle that I had was my fear of being judged by individuals in prison. So I still had that mentality where I still had to wear this mask and pretend to be someone that I wasn't, because I cared so much still of what others thought of me. And so initially, like, I didn't want my friends to judge me because when they did, they talked a lot of crap. And it made me feel a certain type of way where I kind of did not want to participate anymore. But like I said, with the support of my brothers in the program, that shift changed where I became willing to act a fool, to whatever it may be, and just kept that open mind, and it changed. It made me more vulnerable where I was open to trying things out and following through.
What initially drew me to the style, I was on the yard at CRC, and they were performing a play called The Magnanimous Ass. And I was looking in the window in the set building, and I was like, what are they doing in there? And it's just a bunch of laughter. They're having fun, and I see these costumes. I'm like, what is this? Is this part of the prison? I was kind of confused at first, like, is this part of the prison? And then a friend of mine named Bisbano came out and said, hey man, this is the Actors Gang. Do you know what that is? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, you should come look. You should come try it out. So I was like, all right, I'll come look and just see if this is something I want to do. I'm not sure if. And sure enough, I did, and I never left. When I joined the program, the personal effect it had on my life was I didn't know how to channel my emotions. I didn't know how to handle sadness, fear, and my emotions was just everywhere. I would just out of control, and I felt like that was the reason why I ended up in prison, because those two emotions, I didn't know how to control them. I didn't know how to have healthy emotions. So joining that class, it taught me how to express them in a positive way and how to deal with them and how to keep my day to day going. So at CRC, I was known for playing a female character named Isabella. Um, and in prison, you have to, portray this tough person, and you couldn't be like any sign of weakness. And here I go playing a female character, and um, I was kind of nervous at first, but then I started to get compliments like, "Hey, man, that was great work you did. That was great. That was cool, man. You killed it." And it was like, "Oh, all right." And then still have more respect on the yard than I did before. And then it actually opened up the door for other people to be like, "All right, I can kind of have fun with these characters," and it kind of like worked. And I just kept it going, and I created more characters, female characters, and then at one time, at one play, we had 8 female characters, so it was crazy. Everybody wanted to play a female, but it was great. It was great. Their first response was, "You're crazy. You're nuts. you are you are one of a kind." But they loved it. I mean, they all got a kick out of it. Uh, they respected it. They loved it. It was no really like shaming or anything like that. It was more like, man, you're crazy, you're nuts. But it was great, man. So.
What initially drew me was that night after the first day, I couldn't sleep. Like I was nervous about the next day, and then realizing, damn, I'm doing this for 6 more days because I was committed, right? And anxiety, excitement, I felt alive, and I hadn't felt that for years. And uh, that day, the first day, the Actors Gang came in, and so we all went around, and the Actors Gang teachers asked us to introduce ourselves by our names, by our birth names, not monikers, not nicknames, not prison names, by your real names. And so as the circle went around and people who I consider my friends, I'm hearing their real names for the first time. And for me, it was like, damn, Rich, it was like look in the mirror, you know? That's how disconnected I was from being like a normal human being, you know? Having that humanity in me gone, lost, whatever. And so it was a lot of other uh, things that happened that I experienced during that week. But from the very first day, you know, I was feeling, and I hadn't felt in years.
So when we started the program in Avenal, a young man named Richard came to me and asked me uh, what I would like to join the prison project. I mean, the Actors Gang. And I was like, what is the Actors Gang? He knew nothing about the Actors Gang. So I was in my chains at that time, so I was willing to take any program at that time. I was like, whatever. And so we initiated the program in the gym. I walked in, I saw 4 teaching artists. They got explaining to us about what the program was about, and I was just like, all right, let's go. And they started telling us about these emotions, these characters, and I was like, I don't know about this. This is kind of tricky. And so afterwards, I started to watch everyone else do it, and I started to take a chance on myself, and I did.
Our most effective programming in terms of numbers is Avenal. Of the 25 guys that originally started the class, I think all but 2 or 3 are out, and the recidivism rate is 0 for the class, and the class is still running strong. And the reason that is because of the culture that exists at Avenal. We see support from the warden all the way on down to the officers opening up and allowing the participants into the classroom. And that culture is really unique and manifests itself in what we see in the classroom in many different ways. They support not only the men putting on a show, which we see at several institutions. We've at High Desert, which on D and C yard, level 4 yards, very political, very violent. We saw the same thing with Warden Spearman up there. He got in support of programming up there, and he allowed them to do a performance on the yard, and it shifted the culture of the yard. Violence started to drop. So we see it in the performances that the wardens and the staff help support. One of the big things that institutions do that has a profound effect is allowing family members to come up once a year and see and witness the work the men and the women are doing in the class. They'll either put on a play or they'll do an open workshop for families. And families will drive from Southern California all the way up, whatever that is, 9 hours up to Reno through the snow to see, you know, their loved ones perform. And, you know, the effects of that are profound. The other place where we see it is in wardens allowing individuals who were incarcerated at their institution, who have gotten out, some of whom are still on parole, come back into the institution and share how it is that they're using the work they learned inside prison on the outs, how they're taking that work into their communities to add value, how they're using those skill sets just to reacclimate to the difficult thing, which is finding housing, finding work, navigating all of the family stuff that comes up when you've been gone for a while. We find that, when they're able to go back up and share that with men and women who are still incarcerated, it's invaluable.
What made Avenal so unique? I would say the dedication of the 25 guys that we had. I think our commitment to the program was a sense of brotherhood, accountability. And I say that because what it did for us, we took ownership and we felt like it was important for us to continue on with this accountability towards the program and how we engaged in the program, because we knew sooner or later that we can find freedom in this here. And when we found freedom, we continue on with the same accountability. So what it did was it just kind of showed us how to grow together in this space through this style, and to come home, we just carry the same accountability. With what I mean by that is to be sure that we look after each other, to follow through with things that we may need from each other. Whatever it was that we did inside, we did it out here.
Being a part of the Avenal team, what it had, the effect it had on me, changed me in a different way, where I became more open. I relied on my brothers in there, and there were times where I wanted to quit because it was just not for me initially. But when they supported me, they were there for me with no judgment. Like I said earlier, I kept an open mind and submerged myself, and it just made me feel these emotions that I've never felt, and I became so vulnerable. So it definitely changed me in a positive way.
I would say some of the cultural effects that I saw at Avenal was the rumors started to go around that we were wearing makeup. And so it started to get back to us. And so we kind of sat down and talked about it, discussed it, and we said, hey, why don't we just bring the program to the yard? And so we talked to the program manager, and asked them, was it okay for us to run the program on the yard? So they allowed us to run the program. And we surprised them. We came in fully with makeup on, costumes on, and they was like, whoa. But somehow by the end of the show, they were smiling, laughing. They forgot they were in prison, and we broke whatever the stereotype that they had in their minds was no longer there. And it was just amazing to see those guys like come up to us and say, bro, like, that was cool. And so that was really, at that time I was like, wow, we own something. It really made me see like this program is giving us something to help ourselves, but not only ourselves, but could change the dynamic of the yard. And that was when I really realized how important the program was. I was a taxi driver at this institution, and I saw these corrections officers every day. And what it did was it opened up a dialogue to talk to this individual, not about prison, not about inmates, not about staff. It was about this particular play that we did and how we were able to play in this style that they were so amazing about. Like, they was like, wow, how did you just let that play go like that? So I think it just opened up a dialogue for us to communicate. And I really believe that every time I saw those staffs, we had a different dialogue pertaining to the play, or when y'all gonna do your next play.
Usually when programming is supported fully, it's supported from the top down. All the institutions run separately. The warden really, as an outsider, seems like the warden institutes the culture at each of these individual institutions. And so when they're supporting our programming fully, the warden's on board. They usually give us an opportunity to come in and just share what it is that we're there to do. But also, all of their executive staff are also on board and have an understanding of what we're looking to do. And if an institution's fully on board, we see it from the minute we walk in. When we walk up to the gate, Avenal's a great example. Anytime I've ever been there, no matter who is in the gate greeting us, we really do get a greeting. It's like good customer service at the end of the day, which is crazy because we don't see that everywhere. All of us arts organizations get together and we have conferences and whatever, and the number one thing that always comes up is that folks get hassled at the gate. Now sometimes that's valid because obviously the officer at the gate has certain requirements that they require for safety, but also that's usually the number one place that an officer has the opportunity to hang up a program, make it difficult for them to get in. But when a program is on board, fully supportive, like Avenal, you have an officer who's there like, hey, how's it going? How's your day? Welcome. They always have the clearance sheet there. We never have to question whether we'll get in or not. And then on top of that, we leave energized from that first interaction to go in and teach our class. With a program like ours, we might be arriving at an institution after being on the road for 3 days. So like when we go to Avenal, we've spent several days at at New Folsom, then maybe CCWF, so we might be absolutely exhausted there. And so it's awesome when the staff is energizing in that way. So that's the first place where we really notice the positive effects if an institution is on board. The second place is in the classroom. So if a community resource manager is on board with the program, in action, they will have made sure the memo is out, the space won't be double booked. At Avenal, the men are in the class waiting for us. Out of the 13 institutions we work at, it's one of the only places where that's the case. And the inverse of that is that men or women have difficulty getting out of their dorms and getting to class. And a lot of times we end up just, wasting a lot of time waiting for folks to arrive. And then the biggest place that currently we see the effects of somebody really, a warden, a staff really being in support of programming is in the reentry of alumni teaching artists or teachers who are currently on parole. Our biggest issue is getting folks cleared to go back into the institution when they're on parole. I won't get too far into like what that actually looks like, but within CDCR, parole and the institutions both have to approve of a parolee going back in. On the parole side, it has to go all the way up to the regional director to get approved. On the prison side, a PIO possibly or a warden has to approve it. And right now, to be honest, we're getting a lot of rejection around men and women going back in. And so, Rosemary is a prime. Rosemary Ndoh, the warden of Avenal, is a great example. Anytime I ever have to get anyone cleared to go in there, I don't even have to go to her because her CRM knows that there's a priority to get alumni in to help run programming, to share their personal experience, because I'm a good teaching artist, I'm great, but like the work that I can do can be done in half the time by somebody who has a lived experience of what it is to go back into a prison and teach and start to form those bonds. So it really is in everybody's benefit, but that's a place where we see the most resistance.
So the relationship that was unique with staff and inmates were that they were extremely supportive from the beginning. Of course, they laughed at us. They thought it was weird that we were putting on makeup. We were clowning around, and they thought that it had no effect on anything. What does makeup have to do with anything?
They're playing a female role. They're wearing makeup, lipstick. They were saying all these things. What's up with these guys doing this and doing that? They're wearing female clothes. Anything that they, people judge, how it is, especially in prison. They want to put us in categories. They want to put us in boxes. They want to separate us from them. But I think at that time, it was 25 guys, different races. We didn't care at that time. We was fully engaged at that time. We gave ourselves a commitment to each other, to the program. And at that time, they can say anything about us. We were so concerned about while we was in the program and what the program was giving us. So we didn't really pay attention to that stuff no more. For a minute, the first, I'll say, month or so, it bothered us. But I think every time we came together and we knew that the word was out there, it only made us stronger.
But throughout the course, like I said, they saw the change in us. And so that's when they became so supportive that we had an open line of communication with them where we developed trust amongst each other. So without that trust, we wouldn't be where we're at today, where that program succeeded tremendously.
The staff at CRC affect the program like in a major way. Without the support, then there's no program. Like there was one time where we kind of lost the program, and like getting a sponsor or getting the doors open for Unlock, if you don't have that support behind it, then there's no class, there's no nothing. And it was that during that part it was really, really challenging. But then when you have the right staff and the right support, it lets us like change our lives. It helps us and it gives us hope and believe, and then if we can do things, and it's great.
I say the warden set the tone. I think when she set the tone and giving us this leeway to play, giving us space, because sometimes it was very difficult to find time for us to practice, but she always made it a way to contact the officers on the yard to be sure that we were able to continue with our work on Tuesdays, because she saw the way we were growing. She saw the way we were changing. And so I think she just made it her duty to communicate with the other staffs and show them that why it was so important for us to have that space. And I think that made us feel comfortable. That made us feel like someone cared about us. Someone believed in what we were doing. Someone believed in our change while we were giving ourselves a chance in that program. And it only made us really just engage fully into the program.
How do we buy into an administrator saying to us, to the population, to trust her? At that time, Facility F at Avenal was locked down. There was no program. We were locked down for 4.5 years. No visits, no store, no packages for 2 years. And through CDCR, again, rules and their guidelines, they have to make an attempt to open program every 90 days, which meant every 90 days, we're gonna go out and fight. And I was part of all that. I was part of all that. And so as long as nobody really got hurt, place them back in their building, place this faction back in the building, we'll try again in 90 days. And this happened for 4.5 years. And she decided, Miss Ndoh, to come on the yard one day. And at this time, she was associate warden. She comes to the yard and asks to meet with us, Southern Hispanics. And we met in the SAP building. They escorted us into the building. And so we all sit, and we're there like, what are they gonna tell us? What are they gonna talk about? And so she simply starts with just introducing herself in a very joyful, like humane way. And no one had ever done that. And she starts saying things like, I love you guys. I want to help you go home, but I need you to trust me. And I mean, we're hearing her, we're listening, and I don't know how everybody else felt, but I'm like, wow, no one's ever done that. Like no staff, no one's ever done that, let alone administration. And so she's saying to us, I want you to go home. I will help you go home to your families, but I need you to trust me. She just kept using the trust me, trust me. And then she finished saying what she said in telling us that she would bring programs in that would help us, with our change and what we would need to live and make it out here in society. But we needed to trust her. And then someone else spoke, but it was nothing like what she presented. And so at the end of the meeting, I guess they felt we were gonna speak. Nobody spoke. Nobody spoke. Just administration spoke. So we went back, and then amongst us, we talked, and we said, what do we have to lose? Like, she didn't have to do that. She came on her own and is asking us to let's see what that means. Let's trust her. And so we opened up the yard opened, and nothing happened. Like, there was communication amongst, the factions that were fighting. And so we were like, okay, if they're gonna open program and give us our visits and give us program and start letting programs come in, let's see if she's gonna keep her word. And she did. She did. Programs started coming in, programs we never heard of. And then that's when the Actors Gang came in.
So when the style came together for me, I was at Avenal State Prison, and we had did a play, and we had did it on Facebook Live. And at the end of the play, we were asked to have a sign to share with our families and friends some type of connection. And I was watching guys write on their signs, "Hi, Mom," they was leaving messages to their girls, whatever it was, right? And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write on that sign. And I would say within 60 seconds, I just started writing. And I wrote, "Thank you, CDCR." And I said that because they had never gave up on me. I thought they did, but they didn't. For 28 years, they never gave up on me. Even when I was the baddest of the baddest, the worst of the worst. Somehow they put me back out there in the yard to try to figure out where I needed to go. And at that moment, I knew that it was CDCR that really gave me a chance to see myself, which allowing them to bring in these programs. So that was the moment that really caught me and had me like, just like, wow, it's real.
We've been doing the Actors Gang work for 10 years, and there have been so many cases where I've come in and met an officer, a sergeant, and over my time knowing them, some of these men and women I know for almost, or have known for almost a decade and become friends with, I've seen their perspective shift over time. I feel like a great example is up at High Desert State Prison. The Actors Gang was one of the first programs up at High Desert State Prison when they opened it up to programming. It was right at the time where Marion Spearman had just taken over as warden, and we went up there. And we were on D Yard, which was a very political and violent yard at the time. And they just hadn't had any programming. And so when we went up there, everyone, whether it was the individuals who were incarcerated or staff, were kind of just wide-eyed, like, what is this? What is this going to be? And over our time there, the participants eventually took to the work that we were there to teach, which they always do. But the really cool and valuable thing to me, which had the longest, more long-term effects on the program, was the shift in staff. And it wasn't easy. At first, we'd go up and we'd meet with Warden Spearman, and he'd be like, "It seems like the program isn't, there's struggles going on. I'm getting reports from officers that things aren't working out." And they would even go back and watch the video of the class and see if it panned out. But Warden Spearman was eventually able to get staff members there who were open to the idea of what these participants in the class were trying to do. And through that, I met Lieutenant Bronigan, who at first, when I first met him, he was very he was a great guy and was really upfront about "Jeremy, I like you. I respect what you're here to do, and I just don't know that it works." You know what I mean? There's a culture that's very set, and we're here to help, but I don't know that this will work. And after 3 years, I had the privilege of watching his whole perspective change on it. And right before COVID hit, we were actually up there on that yard, and they'd gotten to the point where Lieutenant Bronigan and the warden at the time, the executive staff, had made an arrangement to actually have a stage brought in because the guys had decided to put on a play, and on a level 4 yard, they brought in an audience who wasn't a part of the class to watch this play happen. And it was just crazy to be in that room, to know that Lieutenant Bronigan was responsible for that. And not only that, over time, as I would continue to visit, and he gave me his cell and was like, "Call me anytime, if there's issues." And he became so invested in the class that one of the, I want to say ranking members, but one of the guys in the yard he was the right-hand man of one of the members who had the most clout on the yard, who had that yard. He eventually gave up his affiliation and went to SNY. I don't think he would have done that had it not been for the work of Lieutenant Brodegum and his staff investing in the class, giving this guy the opportunity to use this work in his life, see that he wanted a different direction, he wanted a program, and he wanted to, shift away from that gang culture and eventually find his way back to his family, which he did. But it's through, as I got to watch Brodegum go on that journey, he was going out and pulling guys from the yard and checking in with him, watching how the program worked, and now he's one of the biggest advocates of our program, which on a yard like D Yard up at High Desert, that's a huge feat. I mean, I feel like his stance is like, if the program affects one person, then it's worth it. And I feel like in a way, that same approach we can have as visiting teaching artists in terms of staff. Like I think, anytime we walk into a prison, there's going to be a bunch of staff who are possibly, in just trying to survive there, maybe not about programming. That job is very difficult, but if we can change one of their minds too, I'm like, oh, well, then I guess we as artists have done our job there too. And we want to be in support of that. We know that the prison staff have a very, very difficult job to do. And we try to be in line with what they're asking in any way we can. I've had many conversations with staff, and it's over the years it was often like, this is what we typically do with our program, but we will adapt it. We will work with whatever you need, to try and make this thing work. And so that's the way we look to partner.
My class specifically at CDCR, how we shifted the culture. We held each other accountable. So we represent the actors gang. So that means hey, all of us have to join college. It wasn't mandatory, but it was something that we all did as a unit. Let's all program, be the program kings. And so my two friends that was outside of the actors gang that wasn't in the program, kind of they follow suit with me. So now that I have these two guys and then another guy in the actors gang, he has two guys that's outside of the program too. So the whole yard became just one big movement, and we would go 90 days, the whole yard right up free. And that's kind of unheard of for a whole yard to go no write-ups in 90 days and no fights, no violence. And so yeah, it was I feel like the actors gang was that yard, was CRC, was the actors gang. And it was amazing.
What I want to say to the officers is that change is possible. They always say never judge a book by its cover. And this is one of those programs where people are going to judge, but keep that open mind and allow it to play out and see how you feel afterwards. Watch that dynamic shift, and it'll change you as well.
I would say the message that I want to convey to them is that if you open your heart just a little bit, you'll be surprised the effect that it'll have on that young man and how that will play a role in his freedom and how he would take that work and use it the way you treated him and the way you made him feel. And that it's possible that he can make a change in someone else's life because you've given that person a chance to see him as a human being. Because I really feel like because they made me feel human again, it made me want to give that back to someone. And how I gave it back was important. And I believe through the Actors Gang, I was able to really find a way to give them a sense of hope that the Actors Gang gave me and gave them a sense of possibilities for freedom.
I would say there's a lot I want to say, but at the end of the day, inmates are coming home, and I would say it goes without saying, you want to be treated, a certain way. So treat others the way you want to be treated. I know that's a cliche, but because you never know, one of us could be a neighbor of a staff, and I've ran into, you know, used to be a sergeant, in person, and he treated me with respect, treated me, like a human being. So naturally, when we ran into each other, that's what it was. It was a respect and, this mutual understanding of the past is the past. You're home now. And also social media, I've ran into a couple who have befriended me. And so just treat, I understand it's a job. You come in, you know, you have responsibilities that come along with it, but just give the inmates a chance. Everybody deserves a second chance, and just treat them with this humanity that you would want to be treated, because we're coming home, and I can tell you that of the 17 brothers that have come home, everyone is like doing the right thing, being responsible, holding 2-3 jobs. And we're out here doing what we're supposed to do because we were given a chance. So, and I would say, don't lose yourselves in prison. Show up to work, be yourself. Because unfortunately, being in there so long, you could kind of see the changes in staff also throughout the years. And so you can lose yourself in there, not just staff, but also the inmates. It's just always stay grounded and don't lose who you are. Be yourself.
What drives my desire to go back in? I think it's being reminded of the work that I did. I really feel like because I'm out here now, life can take a turn. Life can bring us to a place that makes us feel like we're not important. So to go back in and see the guys, it's just a reflection, but also it's almost like a reset button to put me back in that space. Just a reminder of how I got to this point. And I think I wouldn't say I think, I know I need that reminder, because I know that the world can really take you under if you allow it. So I like to go back in because it's just, walking through the doors, again, the sense, the smell, all those things are just a sign that you found a way through the Actors Gang, and here's your freedom. And to be mindful of your freedom and how you move around here, because you can easily fall back into those ways. So I say that I love going back in because it's just a reminder that my change is real. But it can't be taken from me if I don't pay attention. What I really love about the Actors Gang is to go back in and see the way the correctional officers treat us now. It's so different now because they saw my change when I was part of the program. They knew that I was going to do something great because they saw how much work that I put in the program. And so the way they respond to me now is just, they treat me like a person that is there for the right reasons, who's bringing in a program to change other people's lives. And it's a feeling that is hard to get without the Actors Gang, in my opinion. And one more thing I would say is that when I went back into the prison, I paroled March 6th. Somehow, I went back into the same prison, Avenal, March 6th. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. To see those guys, see me come back in for the first time was like, it was breathtaking, man. It was weird, it was crazy, but it was real. So yeah, I would say that was a moment that I would never forget.
I chose to return back to prison because when I was in prison, I never had conversations with the Actors Gang teaching artists that I wanted to continue doing the work coming back in. Like, I spent 30 years in prison, you know, trying to get out of prison. And when I came home, it was a year of separation from Actors Gang. I paroled to San Diego. There was no contact, no communication. And then I transferred back to LA. And then one day, like out of nowhere, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the Actors Gang. I learned to Google Google Map Actors Gang, and it was a Friday afternoon. I remember, I'll never forget. I came out here, rang the doorbell just like I did this morning, and lo and behold, my teacher, Jeremy Lanka, opens the door and is totally surprised and shocked that I'm here because I came unannounced. Like, I didn't say to anybody I was coming. And then the way I was received and just the conversation we had, we went out to lunch, and I was just simply asked, would you be interested? And yes, with no hesitation. Like, I didn't think that was possible for me to come back to prison. I'm a ex-lifer. I'm on parole. It never crossed my mind that I could do that. That is the reason why I didn't have those conversations with the teaching artists while I was still in. And so when Jeremy says, hey, there's a possibility, there's a chance we can get you back in, would you be? Yes. So I started at reentry. I was going to reentry at Health Right 360, started there. It's like a training spot for teaching artists. And within weeks, I was going back in. And High Desert was the first prison that I went back in to teach. Jeremy and Hannah noticed that something was going on with me. And after we cleared the first gate, I kind of stopped. And I finally understood what it meant when your knees feel weak. That had never happened in my life. And I know to breathe. I know to, just take a moment. And I remember Hannah saying to me, like, Rich, we're here for 2 days. If you want to come back tomorrow, it's totally okay. You can go back. And I'm like, no, I'm here already. Like, because the sounds of the gate, the smell, prisons have a certain smell. It just, something happened. And but I gathered myself, took the breath, and I said to Jeremy and Hannah, no, let's go. I'm ready. Let's go. But yeah, definitely, it was overwhelming. To walk into a warden's office, we sat for a few minutes at his secretary's office, and I'm like, man, I can't believe this is happening. This is happening. Because then I learned that as a parolee, the guidelines, rules, regulations of CDCR, you have to do a year of being home and then apply to return back to teach. And there was a trip, matter of fact, it was the High Desert trip that I mentioned earlier. It wasn't even the whole year. It was like at the 10th month mark, or maybe 9.5, close to 10 months. And now the fact that I'm sitting here in the warden's office and about to meet a warden who's letting me come in, I couldn't believe in that moment that this was about to happen. And when I walked in, Mr. Spearman reached out his hand, shook my hand, and he's thanking me. He's thanking me for being here to provide, class. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, thank you for letting me come here. So it meant a lot. It meant a lot.
What I'm doing today is I'm traveling. I'm going to juvenile halls, prisons. I have my own nonprofit. I opened up my own nonprofit about 2 years ago. It's called Inglewood Wrapping Arms Around the Community, and we have an office in Inglewood, and we have 25 beds for our returned citizens. Actually, we have 2 guys that was in that 25, the group that we had at Avenal State Prison. 2 of those guys will be at my transition home next month. And so we provide housing for these guys. We pay their rents for a year. And I think it's important that they don't have to come out of their pockets and have an opportunity to save their money. So that's what I decided to do, to help them with that transition. And so I get calls from guys all the time. And so I feel like how did I come full circle in this aspect? So to receive one of those calls, I receive a letter. I need a support letter. I write them a support letter for the board. I let them know that we have housing, we have jobs, we have groups that they may need, and I send that letter to them. They give it to the board. When they go to the board, they get approved. They come home. Before they come home, their parole officers call me and ask me what kind of program do we have, and I let them know what the program's about, what we can provide. And it's crazy to have like parole officers calling me about this guy, and now I wouldn't say to be in charge, but to have the right of way to provide for this young man is amazing. So it's just different, but I feel good that I can help a young man that I knew make that transition.
A quick snapshot of what I'm doing in my life now. I'm on my computer a lot, I'll tell you that. A lot of meetings, but also now that things are opening back up, traveling, going back to the prisons. Like my week is full traveling to a camp, probation camp facility, a prison, re-entry, like almost every day of the week. And that means I have to put teams together, So again, reaching out to the alumni, making sure they're available, and leading teams into prison with the brown card. Yes, I received the brown card a month and a half ago. I can't believe it still that I have a brown card. A brown card is a card given to you from Sacramento. Allows me to go into prisons without having to be escorted. It's from what I understand. So what does that mean? It means I can lead a team now, drive into the prison, go to the yard, in the chapel, in the gym, wherever we're at, have class, and walk the team out. And 5 years ago, I was still facing a life sentence.
My everyday life looks like this. Because of the Actors Gang and the opportunities that they provide, when I was at Walden House, they have a relationship with this program called Manifest Works, which teaches you, it's a cohort that teaches you everything about the industry of film and TV and commercials. So my boss at the time, Jeremy, said, hey, I want you to take this cohort and see if this would be something good for the Actors Gang. When guys come home, we can maybe link up with it. I took in that program, I completed it, and now 2 years later, I am art director working on my union days, and it's just been like awe, like the whole time. Yeah.
Outside of Actors Gang, well, recently I caught the traveling bug, so I've been traveling a lot. I'm back in school. I'm studying real estate on the side just for fun and seeing where it takes me. But at the end of the day, my heart lies with the Actors Gang because of what it did for me. So I want to continue doing the work. So what doing the work means to me is continuing to learn the style of the Actors Gang and apply it to my life, and in turn, I continue to show this work in society where it's not only bettering me, it's bettering society as well. There are various exercises and things that goes on with the program, like the characters that they have, the 14-star characters. Initially, I didn't think it meant anything, but in turn, I start to understand the characters a little bit better, where I can embody it through myself and act accordingly. Like sometimes, like I want to act a certain way, I can play it out in the character, and I apply it to daily life, and it just teaches me so much about the emotions behind it that I'm able to be in control and manage my emotions. So when I'm dealing with people on a daily basis, I could manage those emotions accordingly. So where I train at is at the Actors Gang Theater. Every Thursday we meet up on a Zoom platform at the moment due to COVID. And we run the program, we run the curriculum, and we play it out. Everything that we did in person, we somehow managed to incorporate it on Zoom and make it this amazing thing, a cluster stuff of amazingness. When I refer to we, I'm mentioning the alumni that were all formerly incarcerated, and we all made it out and continue doing the work together. It's all formerly incarcerated individuals that just continues to embody the work.
If you're someone who you know if you're disconnected, you know if you don't feel joy, if you can't smile, like, look us up, try it, do the Actors Gang. It's life-altering.
So for those who's never heard of the Actors Gang Prison Project, all I can tell you, it's amazing opportunity for you to change your life. It's a highly dynamic, committed to art skill set or teaching style that will change your life altogether. It changed mine. I was this weirdo that didn't know anything about my emotions. I was pretending to be angry all the time, but deep down inside, I was like this hurt little kid. But throughout the program, I was able to understand these emotions where it changed my life, and not just for the better, but for myself, but for everyone around me. Because now everyone around me vibes off my energy, and they feel and understand that. And today I attract positive energy based on the stuff I learned throughout the Actors Gang Prison Project.
To sum up the Actors Gang, one word, life-altering. Wait, that's 2 words.
Amazing.
Amazing.
To sum it up in one word, I would say freedom.